between.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Intimacy oil is also really key for me. I think it will potentially continue to be one of my strongest oils even after we get through the whole series. I think intimacy oil and honor together are really potent, and then compassion and the throat together.
Yeah. I was moving into honor without knowing it. I did the strangest thing. I put a post the day before temple on Saturday. I put a post with a picture in the temple, and Facebook said they'll take a moment to load it, and then it never showed up. I kept on looking. I kept on going back and saying, where is my post? Where is my post? Because I did get that notice saying, you know, it'll be there shortly. And there was nothing that they could really censor out of it. But, you know,
just posting about using it.
It was posting about I guess it was Friday night, last Friday, because we had we had our class on Sunday. So on Friday night, I went, I'm just going to really spend the evening with intimacy oil before we switched to honor. And I hadn't done the mandala. And I knew I was only half present with some of the meditation, labyrinths, dancing stuff that Jackie had done in the extra things.
Yeah.
So I went in again and listened to that meditation of going into the land breath and meeting the Empress and then dancing, you know, and dancing with her and stuff. I did it twice.
Nice.
And then I did the mandala and really got into it and listened to music and had candles lit in the house. And oh yeah, also I'm doing this thing in my healing before I take a shower or bath of massaging, it's like an Ayurvedic thing, massaging sesame oil and refined sesame oil all over myself. So I light a candle, I put flowers down.
That's awesome.
I massage myself, and I think I had done that evening. And I woke up like in the middle of the night, wide awake, having been on the edge of a sexual dream. And it was strange because it was even a sexual dream with someone I didn't know, and I was much younger and all this kind of stuff. And all of a sudden, though, switched from the dream and found this place of incredible power right before wanting to go to orgasm. And found so much power. And I started writing it down in my journal. And was just like, and it was like, looking back on it, it was like honor and intimacy were meeting. It was just so clear, like enough of hiding, enough of this, enough of that.
Yeah.
And then I had this huge, and I just had to keep on writing and being there, and just even my cat was going, what the heck is going on? Because I was shouting, and you know, anyway, there's no one else in the house. And then I went, oh shit, this is what happened. Rape. When that was cut off, that place of power was totally cut off. And, you know, I'm just talking about the general, you know, the general matrix. So, yeah. And then, so I summarized that. I summarized how at first intimacy oil was very subtle. And I started becoming aware of the location in a deeper way, the location of my womb area and the location of my pelvis.
Mm.
And just realizing that it wanted to talk to me. And I started writing from it.
Nice.
And this was that, and I was just curious about it and curious when it would lead me. And that's how it started. But then it ended up on Friday night being with a roaring. And that's what I posted along with a picture of my mandala. And anyway, I still might.
So it wasn't copied anywhere else, and all that note taking got lost.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And so I'm going, what is the meaning of that? And
you know what it is? Because I'm having some weirdness too with, I just had a big breakthrough, and when I was in the middle of it, I was working with honor oil and intimacy oil and the Queen of Death, which is one of the 13 faces of the 13 moon program. And she basically was like, yeah, I mean, if you made this a TED talk, you could possibly get 144,000 conscious people to see it, and it would change the war. But that means you're opening the dark projections of everyone who's not ready to confront that yet.
Yeah.
So your guides were probably in there, like short circuiting that, like, she needs to just soak up how powerful this is right now. She doesn't need to like go straight into battle now that she's learned how to use a sword, like.
Could be. Yeah, because it's just the most amazing thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The world's not even ready. It's so powerful.
Yeah. So tell me, well, first of all, I'm familiar with 13 Moon.
Okay, that helps.
I did the whole initiation program about 8 or 9 years ago.
Cool.
In California. So.
Yay. Yeah. So I've had 2 really powerful temples since we last spoke. The first one I posted about did I post about my owl ritual in the group?
I think so. I remember something about an owl.
Yeah. So I saw an owl. I got initiated by owl. I went on an all-night vigil. I recalled my original birth trauma, which is like, in my mind, like the deepest level of spiritual work you can get to. And had this feeling of like reclaiming the older brother archetype into my being, and like not expecting anyone else to protect me but myself. Which I think probably a lot of women have like subconscious patterns running around that, because like we're kind of taught to be submissive and like kind, and that it's kind of like our job to love the world. And so we, in order to hold that, are meant to have brother characters who also like go out with us. And so like we can be our most feminine selves and they can be their most masculine selves. And in the way we relate to each other, we can display how other people are encouraged to treat us. And so I thought I would read you a couple things related to like ancient priestess sexuality and surrender codes. And we can discuss the first one a little because it pertains to what I've already said, and then I'll tell you my second major ritual, and it pertains to the other one more. Because
what book are you using?
This is Kadesha.
Oh, I don't know that. Okay.
By Ohad Pele. I took his ISTA class, which is it's called International School of the Temple Arts. So there's like a priest temple and a priestess temple, and they don't really get along. And back then, when it was just one god, one goddess primarily, the female goddess was a fertility goddess.
Mhm. Sure.
And you know, you all know we're privileged to have an uninvited guest here last night. Yes, what a privilege, responded the girls with bitter sarcasm. They'd already heard of the strange ways in which High Priestess Ishtar had dealt with the incident. So basically, a priest came in, he was out of control. He tried to rape one of the priestesses, and then the head priestess showed up and offered herself to him and like offered to host him and was like, well, no, if there's like a priest showing up, then you want the like finest experience with the high priestess.
And she was protecting the others.
Yeah. And she goes on to say, you know, our power, my girls, is not in the physical. If some man should ever attack any one of you, you will not be spared from his grip with the power of might, but only the power of heart. We are priestesses of Astarte, and Astarte is not a goddess of war. Ishtar ceased speaking for a moment as she surveyed the faces of the young priestesses. She loved each one of them dearly, but she wondered to herself how many of them would come to understand the secrets of divine love, and how many would merely perform prescribed gestures without having a true understanding of these divine secrets. In terms of the might of power and the might of arms, the men are stronger than we are. But there is one power which no man is able to withstand, my girls. Do you know what it is? Seduction, asked Urga. Indeed, my dear Urga, the power of seduction is very strong, but it is not sufficient. It may even be interpreted by a raging man as another attempt to control him. And this would only further inflame him. Men do not like to be controlled. They seek freedom, and this is an element of their special beauty. If you attempt to seduce them, they are likely to see it as a feeble attempt to control them and manipulate their weakness. And so then what is our power? Asked some of the priestesses whose patience was growing thin. Our power, my girls, lies with surrender. Surrender, shouted Othelia. Yes, surrender, continued Ishtar. When a raging man attacks a woman, he expects her to defend herself and oppose his power. If you oppose him, you fulfill his expectations and therefore only strengthen his resolve. You continue doing what he's doing and will attack you with even greater power. Many women have already lost their lives this way, or their beauty. Only a woman who is skilled and strong in the ways of love is able to surrender at such moment. True surrender says, take me, I trust you. True surrender immediately strips the man of his weapons, smiled Ishtar.
Wow.
Is that why you offered yourself to the frightening priest last night? Exactly. Had I not done that, I tell you, you may likely have found me and sweet Athalia lying here on the floor, raped and throat slit, just like those lambs they slaughter every day as offerings to the temple of the divine. So how do we surrender? Wondered the priestesses. To whom should we surrender? To a violent man who has come to rape us? Is this really what you're suggesting? A true priestess of Astarte sees with the heart, declared Ishtar. Even if a violent and frightening man attacks you, inside of him is a frightened little boy whose heart is yearning for love, but who doesn't know how to get it. Look into the heart, my girls, and surrender to the truth. Be yourselves, the divine love embodied. Be yourselves, the goddess, and she will protect you with her power. If you will be only flesh and blood, you will be treated like flesh, and your blood will be spilled. But if you will be the goddess, you'll immediately see with the eyes of wisdom in your hearts that another pilgrim has come your way, whose soul knows not, who is thirsting for love like a ram at streams of water. Give him immediately to drink, and do not tarry. As Rebecca gave Eliza to drink at the well, give this man to drink from the wellspring of love, and then kiss him. Kiss him like Jacob kissed Rachel. Kiss him, and his weapons will slip away from his hands like leaves from a tree in the autumn. This is the secret of a kiss, my girls. Wherever there is a kiss, the weapons immediately fall away. And wherever there is no kiss, there is a threatening weapon.
Wow.
And in Hebrew, the word for kiss and weapon derived from the same root word, neshek. Neshek is weapons, and neshika is a kiss.
Wow.
So I read this and it freaking changed my life, because what I was also processing during intimacy oil is like, I actually like have exercised these high level priestess codes to evade kidnapping before.
Wow.
Like when I was 19, I look back on that and it was like the moment I stopped trusting the world. But after I like gained my self-trust back and then the trust of others came back online, I was like, No, actually, that was the moment where I was more than flesh and blood. I was with divine, and I like trusted my relationship with divine and that it wasn't going down that way. And that kept me from emitting fear and being more like hurt or constricted. And I found an opening because of that. And it did take a kiss. Like it took like this illusion of like, I trust you, or at least like, I mean, I guess yeah, I was like playing I trust you. Like I wasn't like fully I trust you, but yeah. So like for me, intimacy oil was calling a lot of like stuff up in my womb space from like previous traumas, even older than that. And just this sense of like, that is my seat of power, but I've experienced the seat of that power in its most extreme priestessy form. And I've rejected it. Like I'm like still reclaiming like the only way that you can win in the face of violence is with love. And what that actually plays out like is like really hard to like stomached in the modern world, especially with like rape culture and like how much we like cater to the victims within that narrative. And you know, my 7 years of therapy that told me to feel protective of myself and sorry for myself, and undoing that conditioning to actually like reclaim the power of the womb is like, whoa. And so I was reading this channeled article, which is supposedly from Yeshua, aka Jesus, but it's written by Pamela Cribb. And there's a lot in here. Like, if we weren't doing intimacy oil and honor, I would just straight up read this article and do a discussion group about it, since this was my session to lead, because it has literally everything that can possibly interfere with us showing up in full presence and sexuality. And so at the end, after it goes through like all the parts of presence that are needed, I found it interesting because we just did the honor oil, and we were seeing all these pictures of spiritual warrioresses.
Yeah, right.
So the blockage in female sexuality. So yeah, basically to like reclaim my like victim, own this like scary power, I had to like also reconcile with the predator and like you have to like literally be walking in infinite forgiveness to really show up with the power of consistent love even when you're scared, right? So like I will now speak to the energy blockages in the area of sexuality, which specifically apply to women or men. In women, it is the area of the first and second chakra, the tailbone and the umbilicus, that is the most battered and hurt as a result of sexual oppression and violence over the centuries. So like this natural disposition of like the feminine to have like injuries and like limitations and lower back pain and all of that is related to the sexual wound of not just the female body, but the feminine essence. And so for quite some millennia, women have been framed into a subservient role in almost all areas of society, and this still goes for many places on earth. With regard to sexuality, this inequality manifests as rape, assault, humiliation on a large scale. As a result of this, many women, indeed the collective female soul, have suffered incredibly, and there are deep emotional wounds which need time, love, and utmost care to heal. Often the drive for sexual union is felt by women as a longing in the heart or a spiritual feeling, but when they get physically intimate, they find they may not be able to express their sexual energy freely because of the energy blockages in the first and second chakra. Those energy centers are the soul memories of sexuality that was forced upon them even farther back into their past lives and DNA.
Oh yeah, I've been real aware of that past life DNA thing.
Yeah. We're transmuting it for everybody. That experiences were so painful that the woman withdrew her energy of her consciousness from the area of the belly. So like this whole area around the womb, it wasn't until I started doing network chiropractic care and they started resetting my nervous system that I actually felt all of those nerves come back online. I had like not even realized how much I we retract from that, and we do it so young, like before we've even like fully gotten into our bodies, so we don't realize when it's absent. We're just like, oh, this is how bodies work. So when the body is now approaching it in a sexual way, it instinctively tightens, or the emotional body automatically signals resistance. The physical cells are aware of the trauma and do not go along easily with the invitation to dance, rather shutting off and creating a barrier to protect yourself from more aggression. The reaction is utterly understandable. It should always be dealt with in the most respectful way. Using any kind of force to take away the resistance is it violating the hurt centers again. When you have these emotions as a woman, it's important to be fully aware of them. There may be anger there, resistance or fear regarding to physical intimacy, and all of these emotions are often older than the relationships you're in, older than even this lifetime. Yeah. So specifically, I would advise women who recognize this pain to get acquainted with the lifetimes in which they were the offender or the perpetrator, as opposed to the victim.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Or if you find it difficult to access previous lifetimes, get in touch with the energy of the offender or a powerful woman inside of you. This may sound very strange, but the reason is this. When you've been the victim of sexual violence, this has caused a lot of anger in your energy field. There may be anger there for several lifetimes. This anger blocks you and keeps you imprisoned in a feeling of powerlessness and victimhood. To release the anger, you need understanding. You need to understand why and what for, and you need to see the larger picture. When you can imagine yourself as a powerful woman who could be merciless and cruel towards men and feel inside that this is also a part of you, then the anger can dissolve. A more thoroughgoing understanding can arise, and inside, knowing that you are part of a larger karmic story in which you both played role of offender and victim over the years. It is nearly impossible to release your emotions of pain, powerlessness, and victimhood without also looking at the other side of you, the quote, dark side. And so when you're not necessarily going into past lives to recognize this, you can become aware of it by watching your day-to-day life and feeling these kinds of energies, the will to exert power or to hurt others. You sense that you have not only been the helpless victim outside of circumstance, but there's a karmic tie between offender and victim. And so it goes on to talk about, like, basically back when there were women warriors, mm-hmm. and all these warrior women, like, the roles were they're just flipped, because they were the aggressive warriors, they had the power and control issues. Wow. And so they were the ones victimizing men, and so the men's wound is actually about bringing their emotions into sexuality, because when women were ruling, they would use men to create babies and continue their lineage without caring about how the men felt.
Whoa. That's exactly what the Amazons did with Alexander. And
it's like, oh, you think we've come to, like, create powerful alliance? No, we're just gonna fuck you and run back home and have your babies.
Whoa.
So I've been getting in touch with my predator lately, with all of that said, because I don't think without that much groundwork I would even be comfortable talking about it, but, like, it's been really helping neutralize things, and the like fear of owning my powers, mm-hmm. like because I don't like how they've been tested. Mm-hmm. It kind of dissolved my fear of exercising that when I got in tune with my predator, because it gave me more compassion for the kinds of people that I would need to use those skills with. And so, I was like, okay, what if I recast my life with the predator thing? And I had this girl that I had a crush on when I was little, and I bullied the heck out of her. Part of me wants to go into details, but I think I've cleared that in my own temple space, and I'll spare your ears. But just realizing that, when I went through that, because there were 3 or 4 incidences, I scared myself into retracting my energy, because I did have pushy, dominant, and Amazonian feminine energy. And because I had major sexual trauma from my ancestral wounds, like my mother's first husband was terrible. I didn't really know that she even had him until I was like past my kidnapping incident, but like the karma is very direct and alive and was very much still in her womb when I was born. And where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so I like retracted and I started like watching media around rape and kidnapping and all these like terrible things, almost as if like my subconscious was still kicking it up, like you didn't resolve the karma yet, so now you're just going to be attracted to things that horrify you until you decide to step back into the game. And I stepped back into the game again as a freaking predator, and I didn't even know that I was being predatorial because the guy that I was with was gaslighting me for a place to live. And so I didn't know that he didn't like me, and my own karma blinded me to like the fact that the body language wasn't syncing up as a yes, and I was just taking his words at face value. And it just like really broke my heart when I was like reviewing it as like that and this, like, yes, like 2 years ago, and well, actually like a year ago, I kind of had the karma switched on me and had some like serious violations happen. But it was but when I was in it, I like, it's really weird. Like I wasn't traumatized, but I was having the experience of like how much it sucked, and therefore how much it had sucked when I had perpetrated this other guy from my past.
Yeah.
Like when he was going through it and he was upset with me, I had no ability to relate to how upset he was. Like I couldn't compute it. And then when I finally went through it myself, I was like, oh, that's what it feels like when you have like a fuck buddy friend with really unclear boundaries and you have sex when you're half asleep. Like it's just not good. And so yeah, there's like this way that all of this is waving together in my being, and like this acknowledgement that the intimacy oil is opening up a new availability to be sexually present in like an organic, healthy way. Because when I'm feeling my body fully, which is what this whole program with the anointing oils is designed for, like I literally felt my feet chakra come back online. I was like tickle tortured my entire childhood with my feet, so like they were off. And so like I literally have, as we've gone through this, like felt my body coming back online. And it's like, oh yeah, if you hadn't been disassociated by culture, this never would have happened, because you never had a chance to feel your body. So because I mean, my first experience of sexuality was rape. Like, so I like never really was in my body ever in sexual intimacy. It's like, yeah, when the rip happens and you're no longer present with your sensory experience, a lot of stuff goes offline, including the ability to sense that. And it's not evil, it's sad. It's like, oh, that means how gone you are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I realized when I was doing in the Goddess of Compassion Temple in the other class, I forgave like everyone who victimized me, and then I forgave myself. And I realized in that all of this is the product of wanting connection before you know how to open your heart.
Yeah.
And if we had a culture that taught us how to open our hearts, or if we were mass prescribing the use of cacao to preteens to make sure that like while their puberty chemistry was crazy, like they were still opening instead of guarding in their confusion, then we would have a completely different reality. And so like it's a cultural wound, it's an individual wound, it's been cycling for many generations. And also the thing with Russia is like culturally meta big picture version of that, where like they don't know, like they don't want to be in their space, they want to be in other people's space, because they haven't looked inward enough at their like own community to move from control to authority to valor, which is the gene keys progression. And by valor, you have listened to literally everyone you represent. And so you become the embodiment of serving the collective. And so the same actions, instead of being controlling, become valorous, because you become an archetypal representative of everyone's wishes instead of a dictator. And so it's literally like the shadow of control that creates the power play warp. And, you know, when COVID hit, there was tons of articles about how much domestic violence was going up in Russia. So we already knew they were playing out the pattern. It can all be absolved together. And like, seriously, so I'm genuinely feeling like all we need is 144,000 conscious people to like hear and transmute this, like actually be able to be present with it. Like, it's not enough to just have it slapped in their face. You have to create a field where they can receive it. And I know that intimacy oil has prepared us to receive it. But like, it's really not, hypothetically, really not that far away culturally, at least from like the way reality's informing me.
I feel that there is so much that we don't see in the news or don't see, but it is going out into it's being vibed out. And that there are people picking up on it that we have no idea that they are. You know, I really, you know, I mean, I feel whether it's your statements that you've just made and the reading that you've done, whether it's, you know, me waking up in the middle of the night and roaring.
Yeah.
It's still going out there. And that's not to not listen to anything either. There's one thing you said, that a couple of things that brought up a month before we started with the oils. Taken a shamanic journey and was in contact with a part of me that had been raped, in, you know, like 15 generations ago or something, either family she said it was, the shaman said it was family lineage, you know, the rape and and abducting thing. But in my process of incorporating and working with that, I came up with a past lifetime in which I was one demonic woman using evil power, you know, using the moon and the water and everything for negative ends. I was throwing curses all over the place and using power in that way. And it was hard. I mean, sitting with that it took a week before I integrated it, but it was hard. It was like, I was one tough shit monster. And yeah, that's what I thought of when you were talking about. I mean, there's
you've done the work. Then you balanced your feminine sexuality.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah, it's not an easy thing. And what's sad is, I think, like, for example, like during the Mongolian invasion, where they would just like rape and murder entire villages, I really feel like their control issues were so bad that they were just subconsciously initiating like everyone into the possibility of becoming a priestess, because they needed someone that could hold love that extremely to balance out how extremely they were suffering control.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that's how I kind of feel about Russia, is like, it's a subconscious pattern that causes them to exert malicious control to initiate anyone who's capable of still holding love in such a field to me. And I'm glad I don't live over there right now, but like, I'm living a microcosm of it also. Like,
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's stuff going on here like crazy. I listen to Thomas Hugo and take classes with him. And he did a thing with 5,000 people listening, probably most of them from Europe, a couple Sundays ago, Sunday before this last one. And there was a brave man from Russia who was angry at the world who actually, very brave man who got on. The fact that he was even tuned into that meant that he'd done some work.
Mm-hmm.
And Thomas was so skillful at seeing the wounded part of him, but at the same time, validating the man in him. And not getting carried off with his anger. There was something that touched me so much about that, because he saw the wounded boy like that priestess. That I found a YouTube on the millennial generation in Russia. It's a great 43-minute documentary.
If you could put that in the group chat.
Yeah. And I watched that with fascination just a couple of days after watching that process with this man from Russia who ended up crying. And at the same time, Thomas is repeating his validation of him as a man simultaneously.
Oh, my heart.
It was like, oh, God.
Thank you, this human being, for being able to show up this way.
Yes. And after seeing that, all of a sudden, my heart just went, when I'm sending, I mean, I'm for sure sending tons of love to Ukraine and all those refugees and everything. But my heart's also going all over Russia. And
yeah, it's funny how I often hear it mentioned in the media, the invasion of Ukraine instead of the Russian invasion. Like, we're still focused on putting attention on pitying the victim instead of talking about how we're going to make peace with the perpetrator.
Right.
Like, we don't have a cultural norm for how to talk about the perpetrator.
We don't know, and we don't have a cultural norm for how to talk about peace while there's war going on.
Yeah.
And I'm really struck about what you said about that priestess. Boy, you know, there's part of me that, and to be very honest, if I were in that situation, I can't, to overcome the part that of me that would say, if I love him, then I'll be cooperating in a negative way. So I'm looking at that within myself as I say that.
Oh, like you're encouraging his dark side if you give in.
Exactly. I'm becoming the whore if I give in.
The whore.
Yeah. But the other way.
The sinistra.
Yes, our negative societal version of whore. If I gave in.
Yeah, exactly. When actually in ancient fertility priestess culture, like, being that was actually a super freaking powerful thing. And you just, you know, if you were receiving it and you can't hold it, you direct people to the ones that can. Yeah. And none of this, like, using people that are still subconscious and hurting their chances of ever discovering consciousness this lifetime. And instead going to people that are already conscious and know all about how to deal with that and are ready to receive you with love. And also why I get super passionate about this is because, like, I'm like nervous about and somewhat excited about, I don't know, I feel conflict about this being my superpower, because I've already, like, done 2 istas, which are basically like the spiritual pre-work for Kadesha training, which is like the sexual priestess for being reborn in our culture. And so I do feel called to, like, embody the bridge and, like, role play with people to, like, help that, because what happened to me was, like, I kept back burnering my karma because there was no one safe to play it out with. And so now when I look at, like, okay, now that you're conscious, look at your past and start giving people what you needed. And I'm like, oh, so I'm going to show up for rapists and, like, teach them how to have respect for people. Like, that sounds like a really intimidating job. Like, So like right, but like it's my attraction field. My attraction key in Gene Keys is literally control, authority, valor. Like
Mhm.
this is my magnetic field of attraction. Like people come to me because they think I'm hot, and I'm really tired of like pushing that away over and over again and telling my magnetism that I hate it. Like I had the phase where I put on 80 pounds because I hated being attractive and I wanted to repel people, and I'm skinny again and I love myself and I love my body, and I'm done being scared of my attraction field. And yet also like I'm thinking this anointing path is a way to like basically with the erotic blueprint it taught me like you don't have to be a sexual priestess. You can still be an erotic priestess and just use anointing oils and tuning forks and work with people that are predatory, but their sexuality type is energetic or sensual, and they're not freaking trying to get inside of you. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking that might be like a bridge for me. Yeah, but also there's a part of me that just wants to hide and read cards and palms and do divination skills and just be like the oracle priestess instead of the anointing priestess, but I'm learning how to bridge them.
Oh boy, that's beautiful. Back when there was a time when there was a lot of reports of rapes coming out of South Africa. Not that there aren't still, but I don't know, 8 years ago or something like that. And there was one story that I listened to the webinar on of a woman who went up to, and she might even have known Desmond Tutu. She went to a more remote area, a place where she often went just for a solitary retreat. And she was white skinned. And the house was broken into, and he wanted to rape her. He ended up, but she immediately looked at him in the eye, listened to her talk, said, "I forgive you. And I want you to know that I forgive you. And even though I will need to process, and this will be heavy, that I will send you love."
Yeah, these codes run really deep for me. You mentioned that you've had some past life experiences. I have a few past lives I've tuned into, but really there's just one that's like really significant. And it was the first one I uncovered, and it didn't just come up once. It like continued to be processed for like 3 years because I could not stomach it. And basically like I had like a sexually abusive father and a mother who didn't care. We lived in the woods. I didn't have any like socializing. I was deeply connected to nature because of these circumstances and animals. And then at one point, like I was like a bastard child. So everyone had this script of like, this person's already going to hell and we can't hurt her fate because it's screwed up because of how born. So my father ended up selling me into like sex slavery to like an entire tribe of mercenary men. And so I just like spent the entire rest of my life locked in the center of a room where these men would just like come by and use me and otherwise like consider their like desire body taken care of. And like I eventually like got murdered trying to run away. But like I have so many codes from that because it like my brain like kept sucking in memories of like, how deep can you love even in this? Like, how deep can you love even in this? And just like kept horrifying me. And I was like, I'm freaking running the freaking paces. Like I'm building this like a dark superpower. I'm freaking dark feminine. This is why Queen of Death visits me. Like I've like felt the energy of the other archetypes around. Like I definitely have some alchemical goddess in me, and the muse and the goddess, the Lady of Communion, both speak to me occasionally, but Queen of Death is the only one where it's like anytime I stay up past like 3 a.m, I'm being visited. It's like, I think it's because my powers are so dark.
Wow. Wow. Oh. I have where intimacy oil is taking me now is, and I'll just say briefly where both intimacy and honor are taking me now, what my edge is. And I'd love to end, say, within 15 minutes, if that's cool with you. So there is a past life that people have found that are balancing that I've been working with, of one who, you know, suffered violence and went into hiding. And she stayed cowered over into in hiding for the rest of her life, you know, only running out for the wall to forage some berries kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I've been visiting her and visiting the wall and really aware of how it interferes. For so long in my life, I thought it was because of an uncle that had abused me when I was 5. And I'm sure that was a piece of it. And then I went, no, it was the attachment of my parents that created that wall. And yes, that was a piece of it. This is also a big piece, because it was something I was born into, like when we were talking about being born into. And my right shoulder continues to go like that. And it's like making that wall. And I was in a Nia class, a beautiful heart-opening Nia class. And there's a man there that, I mean, I'm older than him, but whatever, there's attraction. And I was noticing myself being more sexy when I was dancing and enjoying the music and all of that, but I could not look at him in the eyes. And what it was, or if I did, only briefly, when we were doing free dance or finding a partner or something like that. And I know this part so well, this wall to vulnerability and intimacy. And all of a sudden, I noticed that he was having trouble finding a partner too. And I saw the vulnerable little boy in him. That at one point, the teacher went over to him to partner because he didn't join with any of the mostly women there. And there was something that touched me so much by seeing the vulnerable one in him, while recognizing the tenderness of my own vulnerability. So that's my edge right now with intimacy oil. And
beautiful.
My edge with honor and leaking energy. And it's fascinating because, yeah, I have ways that I leak my energy, but I don't see it as being huge, you know, enmeshment with people or this or that. However, I have leaky gut that I'm still healing.
Oh, yeah. There's your layer.
Oh, shit. You know?
Yeah. I'm just reading the, I call forth a yellow ray of honor, heal me of my feelings of unworthiness, awaken in me the strength and self-confidence to honor myself and hold my power. Oh, unworthiness. I realized that I only made $180 last year recently. And I was like, I'm fairly certain I gave more love back to the world than that. Like, there's definitely some unworthiness things still clearing up for me. I think I've like still, I mean, I've done a lot of work with shame, but I feel like I've still got some shame with because I've been actively in the predator work. So like, it's kind of kicking more up, even as it's like healing stuff, it's like igniting other things. Yeah, self-confidence has also been, I used to like, I don't know, I kind of hid behind like a timid persona that's like, aren't I so sweet and cute, adopt me. And so it's been a lot to kind of like crack that and start to own things, especially when like I have plenty of skills I can own, but when like the deeper codes of my being are like kind of deep into getting to know you kind of talks. But yeah, holding my power. When I was in temple last night, I worked with honor oil and I was just saying, I am powerful, like just decreeing it. And like realizing that the like channeling I was in was so dark that like only people of a certain level of spiritual development could probably even receive it without just like recoiling or hanging up or judging me to disassociate themselves from it. And just in the face of like realizing the deepness I was holding, I was just like, I am powerful. Okay, I actually am. And it's about how can I artfully like curate space where I can reveal my power instead of just blinding people with it. And it's like being an angel.
I hear that. I hear that.
Yeah.
I really hear that.
And so I feel like that's been kind of helping my unworthiness recently, is like, no, you're not just because until you develop the level of grace to create that opening, it can feel like unworthiness, because before then you're like, somebody please who's qualified, come witness me in this, like, and you feel like you need all these space holders, but really you just need to know how to hold space. And you can learn that live, or you can do what I did and take the temple guide training with Priestess Presence, and like curate it for yourself. So I've been doing more women's circles lately, because I don't, even though my attraction field is definitely men who like need to be shook a little bit, I want to definitely start with sharing with other women how to hold power, because I'm like, I feel like my boundaries have definitely come a long way, but I'm still probably level 4 of 10, you know, like I'm not at like a 3 and under, which causes like mega consequences. But even when I'm around friends, I feel like I have to really push myself to interject and be like, hey, we're talking about all these things, but this is the heart of what's underneath it all thematically. And can we address this, like, and to like shatter the flow, because something's an illusion. And I'm powerful, and I see that, and I own that with confidence. Like that's a whole nother level of worthiness. And so yeah, still building that one up. Also, because I'm feeling like a natural conclusion kind of warming up. I'm wondering if you would be interested in doing another honor oil temple, maybe like the 6th of April, so that we can get back in sync.
Right. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because we missed February, so now we're doing intimacy in the middle of honor. So if we did honor the 6th, then by the time the next priestess circle is supposed to happen in late April, we would be back in sync with the calendar.
Yeah, I could do that, because I would love to talk about honor more.
Okay, cool. Well, then we'll put that forth in the group. And even if it's just you and me again, I found this really helpful. Thanks for showing.
I found it helpful too. And thank you for reading those things. And it's wonderful just to have an opportunity to talk through.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as the recording, is it important to you that this is only in our white light rays, or do you mind if I share it with a few select people who could use?
I don't care who hears it.
Okay, yay! Oh, I'm so grateful for that. I feel like the honor oils already got you up.
I
You're
am
like, I love
fine.
myself.
Yeah, it's totally cool. Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay. Because I there's so many people that I want to share these codes with, but I haven't like built the comfortability or rapport to just out them. But if I send them a video where it's all laid out, I feel like they can kind of process it on their own terms instead of feeling confronted. So I'm really glad that we have a way to document this. Thank you.
Yeah. And in fact, you know, please, the next time we meet, if there's any important, I don't know, let's say this, any way it's touched anyone, or any way anything from here has touched anyone.
Cool.
Share it. So it's not just going out in a vacuum.
Yeah, cool. I will. Until next time, Sarah.
Oh, will you post in the white rays about our next time, or?
Yeah, I can. Well, actually, if you don't mind doing that, then I only have to do one thing, which is post
okay, I can do
the
that.
thingy.
Okay, all right. I'll just say that we're meeting. Anyone's welcome to join us.
Cool.
And this is why we're meeting this soon, and etc. Okay.
Cool.
All right. Bye.